the surprising thing isn't that the Bible is full of wars, especially the Old Testament, chapter after chapter, battle and conflict and hatred and murder and abuse. But it's that things that were being written about, things that God was saying, people were saying, please may these stop, thousands of years ago, we still see them happening today. I remember many years ago, I was in northern Uganda and heard firsthand the stories of how young women and girls were taken captive in this conflict, and they were abused and enslaved time after time after time again. And you think, well, how does that happen? How does that happen in the 21st century? Just the same as happened thousands of years ago. And you think, well, if it's in the Bible, Gabrielle spoke very helpfully about this. Is it something that God endorses? No, God wants peace. God hates war. But he works to bring peace in the midst of conflict. And in 2025, it seems everywhere we turn there is conflict and hatred and new things breaking out, new threats of war, new war, and new horrors and new atrocities. In Israel and Gaza and countries across the world, there's horror after horror after horror, and the Bible gives us hope, because the wisdom written thousands of years ago is just as important today. In Deuteronomy 21, there's a little snippet of saying, don't get involved in gender-based violence. They don't use that, but we know that today women are often at the forefront of being those who are abused in a place of conflict. And in this chapter, it says, as a man with power in a place, as a soldier, do not abuse women that you could be tempted to take advantage of. And you think, we need to be reading Deuteronomy 21 in 2025. It says, honor women in conflict. Do not set them free so that they might not be enslaved. And you think, we need to be reading this Bible. We need to be praying that peace will break out. And when there is war, and when we don't know where to turn in war, that people will turn to God and peace and wisdom and serenity will break out. My prayer is that will happen, that in the midst of war, we will not lose the desire for kindness and love and compassion. Those shouldn't go out of the window in conflict. They should be ever more important. My prayer is that will happen today, and that each of us can get involved in bringing peace, the peace that God longs for between people. May that be true.